Hello everybody, I'm taking a bit of a walk around some ancient pasture land today with freestanding mature oak and some holly as well, a bit of birch. Should be a great place to find some beautiful, tasty, big fat bolete mushrooms for my breakfast. So let's see what we can find. This is the Scarlatina bolete, Boletes liridiformis. In this species, when the stem is cut, it changes to a very deep blue colour very quickly, going through shades of emerald and aquamarine on its way to the final blue, which then sort of fades actually more to a bluey black if you leave it out for quite a long while. Let me show you what I mean. Notice that the flesh initially is yellow. There it goes. It's stunning, just amazing. This species has an orangey red sponge or pore layer under the cap, and the cap itself is usually quite a fairly dark shade of reddish brown. Notice at the top of the stem, which is really yellow underneath, it's got a yellow ground colour, that there are lots of little red stippling like dots, as if somebody stippled it with a tiny artist brush with red paint. And this gives the stem at first a reddish appearance because of the red dots over the yellow background. If you see a reticulum, which is a raised fishing net-like pattern near the apex of the stem, then it would be a different species altogether. This is very much a dotted pattern. There's no reticulum. And this is a really good edible species. It's delicious. Here I'm picking it underneath an oak tree out in some open pasture land, but it can also be found under beech and sometimes turns up in unexpected places, but always with trees. It's a mycorrhizal fungus. Beautiful, isn't it? It's a really tasty mushroom. It must be really well cooked, otherwise it can cause a bit of tummy ache though. But I would rate it up there with the cep, the porcini, in flavour, and perhaps even a bit better in texture, a bit firmer. It cannot be consumed raw. It's really important to remember that. What a beautiful mushroom. The Scarlatina bolete. And here's another one. We shall trim it up carefully because it appears to be growing next to a pile of horse poo, but there you go. Such is the life of a mushroom forager. This one, the stem is more slender, but it's the same species. It's got the red dotted pattern, particularly near the stem apex, but all over the stem really. And if we flip it over, we can see the orangey red sponge underneath, which sometimes can be a much deeper red. Great, so got a couple of Scarlatina boletes that now I've cut them to show you the ID features. I'll take them home and fry them up in the pan and maybe have them with some eggs and some nice crusty bread. And nearby to those Scarlatina boletes, still under oak, what have we got here? Now you get to see what I meant about the reticulum, the fishing net pattern. Can you see it? And this is, of course, Boletes edulis, the Porcini or Sepp, also known as Steinpilz in Germany. Delicious eating, of course. Very well sought after. Note that the fishing net pattern near the top of the stem, the reticulum, is whitish. Note that in this younger specimen, the pores underneath are also whitish, but they will turn a dingy brown, never scarlet or red or orange like in the Scarlatina bolete. And also note the pale rim to the cap margin. So if I take my little roebuck pointer here we go. There we go. This pale rim. That's a real characteristic of the Sepp. Let's just see if I can get a closer image for you of that reticulum at the top of the stem. That's brought it into focus, but I'm going to do a still photo to show it to you close up. Sometimes that raised reticulum or net pattern is actually much coarser and runs down the stem of the mushroom quite a long way. It's not always confined just to the area near the top of the stem, but that's where you should be looking for it, because that's where it should always be if you have the Sepp or Porcini, Boletes edulis. This is a fine young specimen. The caps are only recently opened, so it's going to be super eating, and even the stem is edible. The stem flesh is actually generally absolutely delicious, probably a bit firmer than the flesh of the cap itself. It should never be thrown away. You try and use all of it. And the Porcini, Boletes edulis, is an edible mushroom that can be eaten even raw when it's young like this, unlike many of the other boletes which are toxic raw. Just beautiful, isn't it? The flesh of the Sepp or Porcini mushroom, also known in England as the penny bun because of the somewhat a resemblance to a bread bun of the cap, the coloration of it and the shape, does not turn blue when it's cut. It stays pure white. Here we go. Here's the cut surface I just did. And to verify that for you, I'll cut a little more and you'll be able to see that there's no perceivable colour change upon cutting. Sorry, it's a bit fiddly. There we go. And as I hope you can see, it's not changing colour. The light's a little bit glary, but it's not turning blue. And now just for comparison, we've got the Sepp on the left and the Scarlatina bolete on the right. When you put them side by side, they do look really different, don't they? But these two boletoid mushrooms, that means they've got a cap, pores under the cap rather than gills and a stem. These two boletoid mushrooms, these two boletes, are delicious and of great culinary quality. And neither of them are especially rare in the UK. So I bring you the Sepp, Boletes edulis, and the Scarlatina bolete, Neoboletus liridiformis. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And what a wonderful thing to find them both growing side by side in this old pasture land under this fine oak tree. What have we here? This is another fine mushroom that you would expect to see in open pasture land around old oak trees. Orangey brown cap, kind of really heading towards orange actually. And at first glance, a very scaly looking stem, sort of covered in woolly scales or fibres, which are called squamules. Let's take a closer look. Flip it over. It's a little bit old. The pores here are looking a bit dingy and old, but maybe not too bad. Still quite firm. I think this is actually still in edible condition because it is an edible mushroom. This is the orange oak bolete, and the stem here is covered in orangey brown scales, which as the mushroom really matures and becomes quite old, start getting to be a very dark brown, almost heading to black. But the coloration of the mushroom as a whole is a little bit darker, and on the stem a little bit redder than its close relative, the orange birch bolete. So this is Leccinum or Leccinum, depending how you want to pronounce it, aurantiacum. Leccinum aurantiacum, the orange oak bolete. Notice that the cap skin at the edge of the cap here is a little larger than the cap itself. It almost wants to hang over like a bit of a curtain. And in fact, in a younger specimen, it would noticeably be hanging down just a little bit over the pores or tubes here, like a little curtain around the edge. This species also has to be cooked well, like the Scarlatina. It can't be eaten raw or undercooked. It would cause pretty bad tummy ache if you did, but it's a delicious mushroom when well cooked. Sort of sautéed for 12 or 13 minutes or something should be more than adequate. The flesh turns a kind of a slate grey colour when it's cut and then gradually blackens a bit. But it all just turns brown when you cook it. Notice here near the stem base, there is some kind of cyanose discoloration. This kind of cyany blue colour. That's normal for this mushroom. It's tasty, and it's going in the basket for my breakfast with the Sep and the Scarlatina bolete. Notice I've got a few oak milk caps in here. These are another species that you can find under oak. They're a good edible species, a little bit of a peppery aftertaste, though some people may find them a little bit hard to digest. I love them and I pickle them. And the actual reason I came out here today looking under oak was to harvest some of these beauties for pickling later. Now here, rather phallic looking, is another orange oak bolete. This is Leccinum aurantiacum again. And note this time that the scales on the stem, which are currently not as well developed because it's a very young mushroom, but notice that they are a kind of an orangey brown, a kind of tawny colour. And if I compare that with, just get it out of the basket again, if I compare that with the fully mature specimen, you can see how much they've darkened and how much more woolly they've become. These two growing next to each other just goes to show you the colour variation and change of form that happens as the mushroom fruit bodies mature. Looks like breakfast is going to be great. What a lovely sight. Got the oak milk cap here and the orange oak bolete growing side by side. That's gorgeous. Here's another specimen, and you can really see on this one how the cap skin here overhangs the edge of the cap. I love the sound of the wind gently rustling in the leaves. It was pouring with rain half an hour ago, and it's now a beautiful blue-skied sunny day. So lovely, such a joyful experience. I feel so lucky to be here today. Thanks for watching. It's been great to see you all again, and see you soon. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe. What a lovely sight. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.